All right, so let's talk about setting up registrations within USA Bracketing for your tournament. Okay, we're going to focus on individual registrations right now for an individual tournament. So I'm going to go into the P2P Diggers Gold here. And then the first thing I want to do is I want to go to Setup and go to my settings. And I'm going to check and make sure. So we're going to scroll down here and look at my pre-reg methods. And we're going to make sure that my pre-reg methods is set to public registration. Okay, so public registration means that anyone that's out there can come in and register for the tournament. We set up restrictions before. We'll talk about those again in a previous video, but those restrictions can help guide people to what they can and can't register for. And so we'll talk about that in just a second. And then as we scroll down here, just look at our settings. We're all good. And we're going to save those settings. Okay. So now, once those settings are saved, I can go to my registrations tab, and I can see I can set my release to public. When do I want things to be released to public? I can leave it blank if I need to. Wrestler entry deadline, so I can say, hey, when do people need to have this into the tournament by? And we'll say this is a Saturday tournament, so we'll say it needs to be in by Friday at, we'll say 5 p.m. How about that? Okay? So I can set that entry deadline. Wrestler entry limit, and you can always mouse over these eyes to see, but this indicates how many weight classes a wrestler can register for in any given discipline, meaning folk style, freestyle, that sort of thing. And so we're going to say that they can only register for one entry. And then division entry limit, we're going to say that is 1 also. So what you could have is you could have that, hey, a wrestler can enter for up to 2 times and only 1 per division. So they could wrestle in 10U and 12U if you had your restrictions set up that way. Okay? But right now we're just going to say that it's single digits. All right? Do we require weight class? If you have weight classes, you want to require those. If they're Madison Block tournament, the whole tournament, you don't need to require it. But if it is a mix of Madison Block and some divisions that have weight classes, you want to require that weight class, and the Madison Block brackets won't require it at all. Okay? So I'm going to save those registration settings, and then I'll see I have a public tab. So now I can go to my public tab, and I can start to see more and more settings that I can deal with. Okay? So what's my registration limit? We're going to say I have a limit of 500 on this, and default entry price, we're going to say it's $20. Okay? Now, what do we do to consider registration complete? We want them to pay online, so we're going to say that transaction is paid. Okay? And then once that transaction is paid, we can look down. If I have my event waiver, I can upload it. I can look in here too and say, do I want to limit the registration to team admins? Meaning if I had team admins and invited them, and I wanted the team admins to go through the front end of the site to actually register each kid individually, I could lock it to where only the team admins had access to do that. I can require a division. So I can say, yep, I want them to have divisions. I could lock teams where they can only select from teams I have in the tournament, but we're going to leave that open so they can put any team they want to in for their wrestlers. I could lock the wrestlers so that if this was a qualifying tournament, like a state tournament, I could put the wrestlers in the tournament, lock them, and only those wrestlers could be the ones that register for the event and get to pay for the event. I could lock wrestlers to their divisions and say they can't change them because we put them in. I could lock their weights, and I could also lock and say, hey, I want to say that they can only be at a minimum weight class. Okay, these are more of our kids' nationals type stuff. For the most part, all you're going to do is require a division and move on from there. Okay. Payment methods, we're going to say we want to pay online. If you want to pay online and pay on site, you would also have to come up here and mark this as just a submitted so that they could pay you in cash at the door. But right now we're just going to do pay online, so we want to mark them as when we consider the registration completed, when it's paid, and we want them to pay online. Okay? Online payment instructions, if you have any instructions, say this was you were going to do a pay on site, you could say the cost on site is $25. Okay? So then we could say that, and that would actually make it where when they show up, when they go to register, it will give them this message on the registration form that says, hey, on-site payment instructions, hey, it's going to cost you $25 instead of the $20 it would cost you online, that sort of thing. Okay? If we wanted to restrict it to states, because maybe it was our state tournament, I could do so. We're not going to do that for this tournament, but I could restrict it to just certain states. Do I want to show the matrix, meaning, hey, how many people are in each weight class in each division? I can turn it on and off here. I can also show the wrestler list, meaning can they see who's already registered for the tournament or not? I can also set that here as well and have them be able to view and see that. Okay? And then finally, we have a registration header. And this is just an HTML that will show up at the top of the registration that you can put in there to say, hey, we're allowing XYZ things and get them to be able to do that for you. And so you can put that in there, and this would show up at the top of the registration to be like, you must be pre-qualified, you must go around to the back for weigh-ins, whatever you want to say for registration. It would show up on that registration page. Okay? So I'm going to save those settings. All right. Now, once I've saved the settings, I'm going to go over here down to the bottom and activate this registration. Okay. Once I activate it, now people can actually start to go to this, go to USA Bracketing and actually register for the event. Okay. Now it will show up as a registration. And now I see that I have a register tab over here that I can look at in just a second. All right. So now, once my registrations are turned on and they're up here, I want to go ahead and set these restrictions. We used these in our last video, talking about how we could import them from USA Wrestling or any of our other organizations we were under. So this is the date of birth range and the divisions that they're in. I can also have it say, hey, when can it be released to public? I can set my male and female genders for these divisions. So this is narrowing down the field of what they can register for based on their profile. So just like in membership, when they register on when they use their USA Wrestling profile or any profile they have in USA Bracketing, it will look at their date of birth, their gender, those sorts of things, and put them and only give them the options to register for the things they're eligible for within your restrictions. Okay. I can also use restrictions at this time to do a couple of things like setting up our grade based. If it was grade based, I could set up for age based, our divisions, weights, any of those things I could set up for, and I could also change the deadlines for these registrations anytime I wanted to. Okay. So that's how I could change the registration limits based on the pre-reg or the deadlines for the pre-reg based on the divisions or weights, whatever I want to do within our restrictions. Okay. Now, custom pricing. We set this public price, we set it at $20, but I could set some custom pricing in here and say, hey, I want to give a discount. So if anyone registers for my tournament, I'm going to make it $15 if they register before, or if they register today before midnight. Okay. So I could do that. And that will allow anyone who's registering, they'll get a $15 instead of the $20. But the second midnight flips, then they will end up with a $20 registration fee. All right. I could also add custom prices for this for each division individually. If I was like, hey, our default price is $20, but for the senior level event, we're going to charge $50. I could set those by the division here and set those as well, and set an expiration date for that price, so that expiration date would go off whenever the registration closed. Okay. All right. So then we go to products. If you're selling products on the site, coaches bands, if you're going to do tickets, t-shirts, you can do all those things here. So you can do USA Wrestling coaches bands and then say which certifications it accepts, and it will actually check their USA profile to see if they have those criteria to be able to get those bands. You can also do a custom product where you can say, hey, I want to sell t-shirts or shoes or whatever. You can go ahead and do that as well with your products. Under discounts, now with discounts, you can start to look at things like, hey, is this a registration entry count? Meaning, hey, they did 2 entries. If they do 2, we're going to charge them $30, so they're going to get a $10 discount. So a discount per entry, we'll say it's $5. And so that way, and that will expire on the day of the registration. We'll say it's Saturday at noon. Sure. Okay. Okay. They'll get $5 off of that for that discount. All right. So anytime they do that registration, they'll get $5 off. All right. So you can set those. You can also set this to a coupon, entry coupon, and give a coupon with a coupon code and say they can have this many uses, wrestler use limit. You can set that, how many times a wrestler can use that discount code, and the amount of discount per entry. And so you can set this up too for coupon codes. If you had a team that you're like, hey, I want to give this team a coupon code, and they then get $10 off of their entries, you can do that sort of stuff as well through the discounts. And then finally, you can give event products discount codes the same way. All right. Once those are done, once you have all your discounts in, everything's taken care of in that manner, you can go to your entries. And this is where you'll see people as they start to file in and start to register for your tournament. All the entries will come in, and then you'll import the entries into the tournament once registration closes, all that sort of stuff. And we'll go over that process in another video. Okay. Finally, purchases. You can see if they purchased anything. And then if they purchase any t-shirts, coach bands, anything like that, they'll show up right here. So just to recap, when you're in your registration, you're going to be required to put in your ACH information if you're doing anything with your public registrations and charging for it. So we're going to put in whatever your ACH is, and you can click here to go to manage your ACHs under your account, that sort of thing. Okay. And so once you're in your ACH, you'll approve the policy and accept. The ACH information is required at the beginning of things so that we can pay you out and know that we can pay you out at the end of the tournament. Okay. So now we have registration open. We've got our ACH information in. We've got our registration deadline, entries, all that sort of stuff set up. We go to public. We've got all of our settings here set up. We've got our restrictions in place. We are ready to start getting entries and starting to register people for our tournament. So with that, if you have any questions, please refer to our other videos, and that's how you set up registration.